layers and layers and layers of information are coming out, not just because objects are being examined in detail, but also because new technologies can be applied to them.
For more than 3 millennia, one of the most recognizable faces in human history may have been hiding a secret, not a minor error or harmless misunderstanding, but something far more deliberate, concealed beneath nearly 22 pounds of pure gold. And the truth only began to surface when modern scientists aimed advanced scanning technology at the funerary mask of Tooten Common, revealing traces of a name that shouldn't be there, a name that doesn't belong to a young king, a name that may belong to a missing queen. Now, here's where things get interesting. What you're about to hear hasn't fully entered the official historical record. Researchers are still arguing over it, analyzing the data, challenging each other behind closed doors. But the findings have started to circulate, and once you hear them, it's hard to ignore. Because the iconic mask we all recognize, the one reproduced on posters, textbooks, and souvenirs, might not have been made for Tooten Common at all. It could have been taken from another royal burial and repurposed. And the clues? They've been there all along. Let's rewind to November 1922. British archaeologist Howard Carter carefully opened a sealed tomb in Egypt's Valley of the Kings. Peering inside by candlelight, he famously described what he saw as wonderful things. Inside lay unimaginable treasures, golden chariots, ornate thrones, lifelike statues. But at the heart of it all was the object that would define ancient Egypt in the modern imagination, the Golden Death Mask. Weighing over 10 kilograms, crafted from solid gold and decorated with lapis lazuli, turquoise, obsidian, and quartz. The mask wasn't just art, it was sacred. The ancient Egyptians believed gold was the flesh of the gods. This mask was meant to help the pharaoh's spirit recognize his body in the afterlife. Without it, the soul could be lost forever. For decades, it was seen as a flawless masterpiece, created specifically for Tooten Common, who died at just 19. But almost immediately, some experts noticed odd details that didn't quite fit. Start with the timeline. According to Egyptian tradition, a pharaoh had exactly 70 days to be mummified and buried. That meant constructing a tomb, preparing burial goods, and crafting intricate objects, all within that strict window. But Tutankhamun's tomb appears rushed. It's smaller than expected. Some paintings seem incomplete. Even the sarcophagus shows signs of being hastily fitted into place. Then, there are the artifacts themselves. Several items appear to have been made for someone else. Some statues don't resemble Tut. Certain pieces of jewelry seem designed for a woman. And in multiple cases, names were altered, scraped away and replaced. And then, there's the mask. Look closely, and it raises questions. The ears are pierced, something typically associated with children or women in ancient Egypt, not adult male pharaohs. The facial features appear softer, more delicate than expected. Even the gold shows subtle differences in tone, as if parts were crafted separately. All of this led to a bold idea. What if the mask wasn't originally made for Tooten Common? What if, after his sudden death, priests under immense pressure reused an existing royal mask, modifying it just enough to serve their purpose? That possibility leads to one unavoidable question. Whose mask was it? Many believe the answer points to Nefertiti. Famous for her striking beauty and iconic bust, Nefertiti was far more than a queen. She was the wife of Akhenaten, a ruler who radically changed Egypt's religious system. Some historians think that after his death, Nefertiti may have ruled as pharaoh herself under a different name. And then, she vanished. No confirmed tomb, no identified mummy. It's as if history erased her. Here's why this matters. If Nefertiti died before Tutankhamun, if she had a burial mask prepared, and if Tut died unexpectedly without one ready, then reusing her mask would have been the fastest solution. Suddenly, the pierced ears make sense. The softer facial features make sense. Even the hurried modifications fit the timeline. But proving this theory has always been nearly impossible. Examining the inner layers of the mask would risk damaging one of the most precious artifacts in the world. So for years, the idea remained just that, a theory. Discussed quietly, often dismissed, never confirmed, until modern technology changed the game. And in 2014, everything started to shift. Everything changed because of a mistake. A single accident, one moment of carelessness, ended up revealing what decades of research never could. It made headlines across the world. At the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, during what should have been a routine cleaning, a staff member accidentally struck the mask. The long ceremonial beard, an essential symbol of divine authority, snapped off completely. But the real disaster came next. Instead of calling trained conservators, panic took over. Staff grabbed whatever they could find: industrial epoxy, the kind used for plumbing or car repairs, and hastily glued the beard back on. They pressed it into place, hoping no one would notice. People noticed immediately. The glue was visible, smeared across the chin of one of the most important artifacts in human history. A treasure that had survived over 3,000 years had just been damaged by a rushed modern fix. The backlash was intense. Authorities stepped in and assembled an international restoration team led by German conservator Christian Eckmann. His mission was simple: repair the damage properly, but he saw a rare opportunity. Before restoring the beard, he decided to scan the mask using advanced X-ray fluorescence, XRF technology. If there had ever been any alteration, like a different face attached or a name replaced, this would reveal it. The reasoning was straightforward. Any modification should leave traces. Differences in metal composition, hidden seams, or signs of soldering. For months, his team examined every inch of the mask. The conclusion seemed clear. The gold in the face matched the headdress perfectly. The hieroglyphs spelling Tooten Common showed no signs of being carved over anything older. Even the delicate glass around the eyes was intact, something that would have cracked if the mask had been altered with heat. So, the verdict: no tampering, no substitution. The mask belonged to Tooten Common. Case closed. Eckmann's team removed the epoxy and carefully reattached the beard using beeswax, the same natural material ancient Egyptian craftsmen would have used. The mask returned to display, and history remained unchanged. But not everyone was convinced. A small group of scientists argued that X-ray scans had limitations. They can reveal structure and density, but not the full story of how metal was worked. What if ancient craftsmen had used gold from the exact same source to make repairs? What if they had hammered down an original inscription so perfectly that no trace remained visible? What if any seams were so precise, so microscopically thin, that traditional scans simply couldn't detect them? In other words, what if the evidence was still there, just invisible to the tools being used? To uncover that kind of detail, you'd need something far more advanced, technology capable of detecting how atoms themselves were altered over time. By 2024, that kind of technology finally existed. Enter Dr. Helena Voss, a physicist at the Max Planck Institute in Munich. Her team specialized in quantum resonance imaging, a cutting-edge method capable of reading the history of materials at an atomic level. Late in 2024, her team received permission from Egypt's antiquities authorities to perform a non-invasive scan of the mask. Officially, it was just a test run to validate their equipment on ancient gold. They weren't expecting anything groundbreaking. The scan happened after hours inside a quiet, closed museum. The mask rested under the device as data streamed live across multiple screens. At first, everything looked normal. The results confirmed earlier findings. Then they focused on the cartouche, the oval containing Tutankhamun's royal name, and everything changed. According to Ahmed Hassan, who was present during the scan, the room fell completely silent. The imaging revealed something unexpected beneath the visible hieroglyphs, a pattern in the gold that suggested it had been altered, not naturally formed, but deliberately reworked, hammered, smoothed, and reshaped in a way that didn't match the rest of the mask. They ran the scan again, same result. They recalibrated the system, same result. Remote expert Yuki Tanaka reviewed the data and came to a startling conclusion. The original inscription had been erased, flattened, replaced. But that was only the beginning. A deeper structural analysis revealed even more. The ears, which appeared solid in earlier scans, told a different story under quantum imaging. They contained perfectly shaped cylindrical plugs, made from identical gold, used to fill what were once pierced holes. The joins were so precise they had been invisible until now. which meant one thing: the mask originally belonged to someone who wore earrings. Then came the most shocking discovery. Around the edges where the face meets the headdress, the team detected what Dr. Voss described as thermal ghosting. This is a microscopic signature left behind when metal is exposed to different temperatures. In simple terms, it meant the face and the rest of the mask had not been formed as one piece. The front showed no visible seams, but the atoms told a different story. The face had been removed and replaced. Ancient craftsmen hadn't worked from the outside, which would have damaged the delicate features. Instead, they applied heat and pressure from behind, leaving the surface flawless while altering the structure beneath. It was invisible to traditional scans, but not to this. The room reportedly stayed quiet for a long time after that. Finally, Dr. Hassan asked the question no one could ignore. Could the system recover what had been erased? Dr. Voss believed it could. By analyzing the microscopic traces left behind, the faint memory of the original carvings, the system could attempt a digital reconstruction of the lost inscription. She initiated the process. For 11 minutes, the system worked, and slowly, something began to appear. From Kyoto, metallurgist Yuki Tanaka later said the room was so still it felt unreal. No one even seemed to breathe. On the screen, the hidden name began to appear, one symbol at a time, and it wasn't Tooten Common. The reconstructed inscription read, Nefer Nefer Waten, the royal name many historians associate with Nefertiti, when she may have ruled as pharaoh. If that reconstruction is correct, it changes everything. The scan didn't just hint at alterations. It laid out an entire sequence of events. When Tutankhamun died unexpectedly, there may have been no burial mask prepared for him. Meanwhile, a powerful successor, often identified as I, could have claimed the grand tomb originally intended for Tut. That left the priests in an impossible situation. 70 days, no mask, no time. So they turned to what was already available. According to this theory, they accessed the burial prepared for Nefertiti and repurposed her mask. The pierced ears were carefully filled using gold of the same composition, hammered and polished until the joins disappeared completely. A new face, reshaped to resemble the young king, was attached with extraordinary precision from behind, leaving no visible trace on the surface. Then came the final step. Her name was erased, flattened into the gold, and Tutankhamun's cartouche was carved over it. In the end, the boy king may have been buried wearing a mask that was never truly his, and with that, the original story was hidden along with him. Today, the mask is displayed in the Grand Egyptian Museum, where millions of visitors admire it every year, believing they're looking at the face of Tutankhamun. But if this theory holds, beneath that iconic surface lies something else entirely, the faint trace of a queen who vanished from history, a presence concealed for over 3,300 years, revealed only now by technology capable of detecting the atomic memory of ancient metal. It's important to note, these findings have not yet been officially confirmed or widely published. Verification is still ongoing, and debates are happening behind the scenes. But the data has sparked serious questions that are hard to ignore. If the mask was originally Nefertiti's, then how many other objects in Tutankhamun's tomb might have been repurposed? How many treasures attributed to the boy king were actually gathered in haste during that strict 70-day burial window? And perhaps the biggest mystery of all, where is Nefertiti's true burial mask? If hers was taken and altered for Tutankhamun, what, if anything, was left for her? And what else is still waiting to be uncovered? Let me know what you think, and if you want more deep dives into mysteries like this, stick around. But the story doesn't end there, because once you accept the possibility that the mask was altered, a much bigger picture starts to form. Some researchers believe the clues aren't limited to just the mask. Subtle inconsistencies appear throughout the entire burial, objects that don't match in style, materials that seem to come from different workshops. Even the layout of the tomb itself feels improvised. Not the grand symmetrical design expected for a pharaoh, but something adapted under pressure. And that raises a disturbing idea. What if Tutankhamun's burial wasn't carefully planned at all? What if it was assembled, piece by piece, from whatever could be gathered in time? Think about the urgency. A young king dies suddenly. The entire religious system depends on his proper burial. The timeline is fixed. Failure is not an option. In that kind of situation, tradition might take a back seat to necessity. So the priests improvise. They reuse what's available. They modify what they must. They create the illusion of perfection, even if the reality is far more complicated. And if that happened once, it could have happened more than we realize. Some Egyptologists have quietly pointed out that several items in the tomb show signs of alteration. Names changed, symbols adjusted, identities blurred. Not obvious to the casual observer, but enough to raise questions among experts who look closely. It's like the entire burial is a puzzle assembled in haste. And the mask? That might just be the most visible piece of it. But here's where it gets even more intriguing. If Nefertiti's identity was deliberately erased and her burial goods reused, it suggests something deeper than just urgency. It hints at politics, power struggles, a deliberate effort to rewrite history. Because removing a ruler from history wasn't unheard of in ancient Egypt. It happened before. Names were erased, monuments were altered, entire reigns were quietly rewritten as if they never existed. So if Nefertiti truly ruled as pharaoh, even briefly her disappearance might not have been an accident. It could have been intentional. And if her mask was repurposed for Tooten Common, it would mean her legacy wasn't just erased. It was overwritten. Literally. Her identity reshaped into someone else's. That idea changes how we look at everything. Not just the mask, but the entire narrative of that period in Egyptian history. A time already known for upheaval, religious shifts, and uncertain succession. A time where truth may have been flexible. And now, with new technologies pushing the limits of what we can detect, we're starting to see cracks in stories that once felt solid. But there's still so much we don't know. If this theory is confirmed, it won't just rewrite one artifact. It could reshape an entire chapter of history. It would force historians to revisit assumptions, re-examine evidence, and ask questions that were once considered settled. And maybe that's the most fascinating part of all. History isn't fixed. It evolves with every new discovery, every new tool, every new perspective. What we think we know today might look completely different tomorrow. And somewhere out there, perhaps still hidden beneath the sands of Egypt, could be the missing piece that finally answers these questions, or raises even bigger ones.